Last time we spoke about, or we ended with a question, or a homework actually. Have you done the homework? The homework question was to find out what happens when you are in that private, intimate moment when energy and attention is in front of you. Hopefully without any form of willpower. And you are now in privacy with the issue of selfishness, of self-obsession, of self-centeredness, and how one's obsessions and interests are at the heart of society, at the center of society. Not only the center of one's world, but the center of society. What have you found out? When you are in that private moment, and we also called it a corner, when you are cornered, there's no way out of it. It's you who are the center. You are cornered, and you also realize that you've been escaping from this all your life. And now you don't want to escape. So you can't go left. And you don't want to be violent anymore. You don't want to be violent through selfishness, through self-centeredness, because that's a form of violence, and you have seen that. So you don't want to go right anymore. So you're in this corner. Alright. Now, may we slow down a little bit here? Because we don't want to rush it. Society rushes us for literally everything. We are rushed all the time. You know, everything is a rush, right? Especially these days. And I think that's why we try to close our eyes and have a short break before we enter our discussions. Breathe a little bit without any mantra technique. Close our eyes, because it's important not to rush. We've been rushing all day, and we enter into conversations all the time, and we rush those conversations. Now, how can we expect anything new, especially in the field of well-being and wellness and knowledge, self-knowledge, call it if you like, although I'm not fond of attaching any word to the word self. I think knowledge is a better word than self-knowledge. That's why we try to cause a short break from our surroundings, so that we don't rush, hopefully. And so we don't, maybe slow down a little bit about this homework and about what happens in that corner, in that moment of privacy. We're in that moment of privacy now, and we're taking it slow. I've been escaping all my life in various ways and forms, through various people, my children included, my partner included, so on and so forth, my government included. And I don't want to do that anymore. But have I really seen that? Have I? Have I seen escape really? Totally. In an instant, in a moment. Have I? Or has my insight been guided? Maybe by this talk, maybe by some other talk. Because if it's guided, then I'm afraid we're only going to find out nothing. We're not going to find out anything worth finding out. I think we're merely going to stumble upon something logical, maybe, some logical design, some logical, rational statement or view. Logical doesn't necessarily mean real. Logical doesn't necessarily mean common sense. You can have a logical statement about something destructive. You can. And so tell me, does that statement have any common sense, and has any good in it, and has any reality in it, if it destroys? A lot of the times, people who believe and people who don't believe, so the believers and the non-believers, the believer and the atheist, notice how very often both of them are on the same spectrum, and they shift and transfer sometimes. Sometimes the non-believer becomes the believer becomes an unbeliever. And I think both of them are on the same spectrum of belief and what's behind belief: time, willpower, etc. The reason why they end up shifting is because, and again, because that they're on the same spectrum, through logic they shift. An atheist is one logical argument or debate away from becoming a believer. And I think also a believer is also one logical argument or discussion or conversation away from becoming a non-believer. And therefore, they can shift. They can convert. Because they're on the same spectrum. Is it possible to leave this spectrum entirely? Spectrum of time, spectrum of belief, spectrum of willpower, such that there is no way to subscribe neither to the believer or to the non-believer. That's another discussion, I think. But we brought this topic now, brought it up. Why did we bring it up? Have we really seen, or do we really see how we escape? Have we exposed it completely? Or are we following something logical? Because again, if we're following some logic, the logic of the speaker, or some book, or some philosophy, then we might subscribe to whatever the speaker is talking about. We might believe in it. But I want you to want more than belief. You need to long for more than logic. Long for common sense. Long for reality. And so, please do not be merely logical about our discussion. Don't look for logical patterns, mathematical patterns. Mathematics is not going to take us anywhere in the realm of well-being and wellness. And the best schools out there philosophy schools, they incorporate mathematical models and logical models and logic as part of their curriculum, because logic is unfortunately a very big part of the philosophy discipline, academic discipline at least, which is a big shame, because if they were really to be very honest with themselves, philosophers are merely spinning words and ideas and mathematical models and logical models, but essentially they're still in the same place as the ancient philosophers have been. In fact, the modern philosophers are really spinning what the ancient philosophers have been talking about, nothing more. I've yet to see real original philosophical contribution in academia. I'm yet to see one. I haven't seen one. And I've read quite a few of the research out there, of the projects out there. And I can tell you, from what I've seen, it's very self-centered, it's very group-centered, it's very oriented towards money, funding, and the people who are providing the money, the funds, and their own agendas, which more often than not is religious agenda, national agenda, nationalistic agenda, group-specific agenda, so on and so forth. Pure waste of human mind, of human energy, of natural energy, of natural resources, if you ask me. Philosophy is none of that. It's not mathematics, it's not logic, it's beyond it. It's bigger than it. Includes logic and mathematics, and it's beyond it. It's more. And it cannot be approached through logic or mathematics. Again, logic and mathematics have brought us the nuclear bomb. And see where that has taken the world. But common sense, and if there were any common sense among these scientists, they would not have built the bomb. Common sense would not have built it. Would it? If one were grounded in reality, one would not have built the bomb. If common sense, if one were grounded, not centered, but grounded in the sense overwhelmed, overpowered by reality and common sense, even if the bomb were built long time ago, one would disarm the entire world, not only from nuclear armaments, but also from every single weapon, every single gun. And one would form organizations and systems and laws around that. The disarmament of the entire world, nuclear and otherwise. Not disarm one group and leave the other group completely armed. No. But disarm the entire world. And I think it's very possible for us to live in a world like that, without arms, without a lot of other things too. And so we are in that corner, and I wonder whether we're really not rushing things. I wonder whether we're being logical, merely being logical and mathematical about this whole thing. I wonder whether we're being swayed and lured by the speaker. I wonder if we're really seeing the nature of how we escape, intimately, cleverly, subtly, how we escape and how we escape all the time. And I wonder whether we really see and whether we have really exposed directly, first-handedly, how we are violent and how we are trespassing all the time through our self-obsession, through our self-centeredness. Because I think if we only do that, if we only see that and only expose that totally, I think that's everything. Can you find out? Can you stay in that corner, private corner, without the speaker even, without time, without willpower, without belief, without logic, simply by looking and the passion of discovery. Look at everything that uncovers. Look at everything that you're seeing or that's happening. See what you find out. See how an emotion takes root in that moment even, and how that emotion rises, surfaces, how you are afraid, and see whether you are very different from that fear or from that emotion, or if you are different at all. See if you are anything besides that fear or apart from that fear. And hopefully you will see not only who you are, but what you are and what you are made of. And perhaps you are only made of fear, or whatever emotion surfaces. Because I think intimately, privately, if you see that you're not very different from your fear, it's not that you are you with your possessions, obsessions, interests. You are you, and then there is something called fear as something foreign from you, as something approaching you or intruding on you, and now you have to, defend yourself from it or manage it, as the therapist said. But if you own it, own that fear in the sense, not manage it, but feel so intensely and with a lot of fury and a lot of emotion. And if that emotion is fear, then feel with a lot of fear and being very afraid. Only that fear, only that feeling, such a way where only that fear exists and you are kneeling before it. You are kneeling before it in such a way where you are even burnt, that you don't exist anymore. Be completely overtaken, a complete surrender to fear. A complete annihilation even to fear. I think in that burning sensation, perhaps physical burning sensation, not only psychological, is probably the end of fear itself. and the beginning of cooperation. I think that same moment of intense fear, the absence of the entity that's being afraid, that has been afraid. I think that same moment is also the moment of real compassion with the entire world, and therefore the moment where one is also the government, one is also one's ancestors, so on and so forth. One is the other now.